Hey guys, so I just wanted to stop by and share a couple of things that I do to help me get on podcasts. So, why do we use podcasts? If you have a message, if you have goods and services, maybe you're an entrepreneur and you're just starting out your business, you need to get your brand out there. Brand awareness, right? One of the easiest ways to get your messaging, your brand out there is speaking, and definitely through podcasts. So, what can a podcast do for you? It can allow you to share audiences. It can get you in front of people that you may not already have in your audience or people that don't even know about you. So, it's going to overall benefit you as far as getting your message to the masses. So, the first thing that I recommend for anyone that is looking for a podcast, interested in getting your word out, your message out, the first thing that you want to do when it comes to finding a podcast is you want to do your research. Do your research, okay? So, why do we want to do our research? We want to do research because, for one, we want to ensure that the podcast that we're speaking on aligns with our message. You don't want to be speaking to an audience that may be all about cars and you speak about coaching, right? So you want to find someone that has the audience that's similar to who you're looking for, or someone that possibly would be interested in your items or in your services, in your materials. So you want to find someone that aligns with your messaging so you'll penetrate the audience that much more. So you want to do your research in a way that you can do that. You can use Google. You can Google top podcasts for women or top podcasts for veterans or for motivation. You can also use hashtags on social media, right? We're using hashtags for everything. So you're going to Google the top podcast for whatever subject that you teach or message that you're trying to get out. You're also going to use hashtags. For instance, on Instagram, on IG, you can do hashtag women podcasts or hashtag veteran podcasts. So whatever area that you're looking to speak on that podcast, there are thousands that will come up. So do your research, and by doing your research, you can Google, you can use hashtags on social media, and quite a few of them will come up for you, and that's a good place to start. The second thing that I recommend that you do is organize yourself. That's the best way to keep aligned who you're trying to speak on their podcast, who you're trying to get a podcast to speak on. So what you want to do is something simple, right? Just create an Excel spreadsheet. Create a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet you want to include points of contact. Who am I going to contact in order to find out if I can speak on the podcast? So I need name. I need numbers, phone numbers. I need maybe the times that they do the podcasts. Decision makers. Because you may reach someone who doesn't have the ability to say yes to your pitch, right? So you want to find out some more specifics, and you can add more to your list, whatever you're looking for, whatever that you find useful as you're creating your list of different podcasts that you like to speak on. But the biggest thing is that you definitely need a point of contact, a name, and you absolutely need a phone number and email as well. That's a good way to reach them. Okay. So create your spreadsheets. That way you can set goals. You can set long-term goals, short-term goals. Different podcasts, based on how long that they've been around, they may have a huge following, right? They may not have a huge following. I wouldn't necessarily choose my podcast based off of how many subscribers that they have, because at the end of the day, you never know who's listening. So you want to choose different podcasts as long as it aligns with your values and your morals and your messaging, and jump on there to get your message out. So definitely get the point of contact, create that spreadsheet. That way you can go back and forth as you set your goals on which different podcasts that you like to speak on. So create a spreadsheet. That'll help you keep organized. The third thing, the next step that I use when I'm finding a podcast is I call it recon and rapport. Recon and rapport. I think I'm gonna run out of room. Recon and rapport. So recon kind of ties in with research, right? But with recon, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper with recon. With recon, I want to find out the why behind the person that started the podcast. I want to find out some of the reasonings and some of the successes, maybe the mission statement behind the podcast. Any information, background information that I can find out that's going to help me as I'm pitching myself, and we'll get to that next. But I want to find out even more background information, so when I do speak with the point of contact, I have something to relate to them with. We're always talking about building relationships, building rapport, business, doing any type of business, any type of transaction. It's always about building a relationship first. So the more that I know about the background, the history, the why behind the podcast was started, we may have some similarities. And in that case, I can build rapport off of that similarity. Maybe the podcast host was a single parent, or maybe they were raised by a single parent. Maybe you were raised by a single parent. And that's something that you can build a relationship, you can build rapport off of as you're pitching yourself for that podcast. Because of course, if you've never spoken to this person before, they don't know you, you don't know them, but it's easier to have something to kind of break the ice with as you're having this conversation. Because remember, you're trying to get on their platform. You want to do everything that you can to build a relationship up to the point to where it's good and they want you on their platform, right? Okay, so recon, get the background information, and rapport building, finding something in common, talking about something that they know about, making them feel more at ease during the conversation. And that's going to help you as far as getting on their platform. So the next step, let me grab another marker. The next step is pitch. Oh, pitch. Remember, this is their podcast. So you want to be on their podcast. You're going to pitch yourself. You want to ensure that you have any stats, any previous podcast interviews that you've done. And when you're actually speaking to them to actually pitch yourself, it's going to go something like this. Hey, maybe your name is Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer, I just listened to episode 1, 2, 3 of your last podcast, and I thought that it was amazing. Based off of what I heard and what I do, I think that I could definitely add some value to your podcast. Would you be open to having another conversation or a future conversation about this? Sincerely, and then leave your name and your contact information. So, and that's, of course, once we get to the pitch part, we're giving our information to them. And if you have anything else, any other stats, anything else to bring to the table, you can add that. You don't want to put too much in the email. But of course, if you have them on the phone, you can do the build rapport. You can throw some stats out there. You can tell them everything, some other things that you've done. But if it's just an email, you want to keep it simple and to the point while you're pitching yourself for their podcast. But remember, it's their platform and you are trying to speak on their platform. So you do want to bring some good stats if you have them while you're pitching yourself. Another tip that I use is bring your A game. We've pitched ourselves. They've said yes. We've made the appointment. We're sitting down now and the podcast is about to begin. You want to bring your A game, your absolute best. What do I mean by that? I mean, you want to have something powerful to say. You want to smile when you're talking. You want to be energetic so they can hear and use inflection in your voice. Because remember, a podcast is only the voice. I've done plenty of podcasts where I'm doing the interview and we may be doing it via Zoom or via another video teleconferencing method, but when it's uploaded, it's just your voice. So remember, I have to exaggerate some things a little bit more so the audience can feel my passion, so they can hear that my services are great, that what I have, they want. They need to hear that through your voice. So you need to bring all of your expressions. You can even practice with your body language, although no one will see it, but it will come through your voice. So you want to bring your A game all the way from the beginning to the end of the podcast. Everything is about engagement. If we think about how many distractions that are out there today, people are all over their phones, they're all over social media. But if you have something and you're trying to get your message out, you want to bring your A game while you're on this podcast. Not only is it going to help the podcast host, but it's also going to help you. Overall, we're trying to get our message out to the world. So if they hear you on this podcast and if they're impressed by you, then they'll go find you. They'll want to hear more of you. They will Google you. So ensure that you are bringing your A game from the beginning to the end of that podcast when you are being interviewed. Be prepared. Sometimes questions are created in advance. I've been on podcasts where we just kind of freestyle and we just have a flow of a conversation. But even either way, you want to ensure that you have something good to say, something to leave the audience wanting to hear more, something to have them eating outside out of your hand with your words. So ensure that you bring it every single time. Number 6, the good thing about podcasts is I can use it for marketing. From blogs to social media, I can have someone transcribe it, put it into quotes. I can use it for YouTube videos, for other social media aspects and marketing that I'm trying to use. So understand that you can use a full 30 minutes of a podcast and have it broken up into sound bites and be able to use that for material for weeks. So it's always a plus. When you're getting on there, you got something good to say, you're dropping some gems along the way. Remember that it's helping you in the marketing aspect as well. So not only are you able to advertise and post it on your social media, you're posting it on, or they're posting it on their podcast, their social media, but it's also allowing a lot of material for you so you can break it up and use it in the future for other social media sites. That's always helpful. let's see. And the last thing, and I can't stress it enough. I think I ran out of room. So I've mentioned it already. Have something powerful to say. And one thing that I love to use that helps so much is alliteration tricolon. What do I mean by that? Alliteration tricolon, it's when you use the same syllable or the same ending of the letter. So for instance, I told some women a bit ago that challenges help to reveal the resiliency in their relationships. So I said, reveal resiliency, relationships. That right there, these three R's makes it easy to remember. Reveal, resiliency, relationships. That's good. It's relatable, right? And it's understandable. And with that, when you're using those three letters, they can remember them. So practice using alliteration tricolon, the three letters in it, or you can start with the three letters of each word, but that right there is going to help you to have something powerful to say on your podcast. So I can't stress that enough. That right there is one of the biggest recommendations and the biggest responses that I get from people is that when I use alliteration tricolon, they love it. They can feel the emotions in what I'm saying, in my message that I'm trying to convey. And believe me, they absolutely remember when I use it. So podcasts are one of the fastest ways for you to be able to get your message out to the masses. You want to increase your brand awareness. You want to increase the amount of people that know about your goods and your services. Find a podcast, speak on that podcast, do well on that podcast, and they will come back wanting more. I guarantee it. Thanks for listening.